Hello there. Today we're going to talk about workers' comp. It's actually called Working Compensation Insurance Programs. It's run by the states individually and designed to cover expenses incurred in an employee's work-related accidents. So it's not something you could claim when you're outside not working. It is for employees' work-related accidents. Maritime workers within U.S. borders and federal civilian employees are covered by their own workers' compensation programs. The Maritime Workers' Compensation Program is mandated by the Longshore and Harbor Workers' Compensation Act, and the federal civilian employees receive workers' compensation protection under the Federal Employees Compensation Act. Trust. Workers' comp laws cover virtually all employees in the United States, with the exception of domestic workers, some agriculture workers, and small businesses with fewer than a dozen regular employees. So, if you say, oh, I got 50 employees, I have one guy say, I have 50 employees, but there's only, I said, how many are regular? He said 10. I said, well, if you want to get workers' comp by your state, which is New York State, you got to hire about another 2 or maybe 5 people just to be on the safe side. Okay. Workers' compensation objectives and obligations to the public. 6 basic objectives underline workers' compensation laws. 1. Provide sure, prompt, and reasonable income and medical benefits to work accident victims, or income benefits to their independents regardless of fault. Remember, workman's comp is no fault. It doesn't matter if the employee did it or the employee did. Now, of course, if a person deliberately did something, there's photos and evidence. I mean, employer could go to court, and just like if the employer don't want to pay them, the employee could take them to court. They could get punitive damages. They could get mental and anguish distresses, physical distresses, lost wages. Okay? Now, it also provides a single remedy and reduce courts delay, just like we're talking about, cost and workloads arising out of personal injury litigation. Litigation means you go to court, you fight it out. Relieve public and private charities of financial drains. Eliminate payment of fees to lawyers and witnesses, as well as time-consuming trials and appeals. Encourage maximum employer interest in safety and rehabilitation through appropriate experience rating mechanism. Before this, we'll cover child labor laws and even pregnant women working. There was no laws to protect them, and there was no workers' comp. So bosses, especially in beginning America and a lot of other industrial countries, they didn't care. They just wanted productivity. Somebody gets hurt, somebody gets cut up, they didn't care, and maybe they did care, but they had to care about keeping the business going, and they didn't have the funds to institute this stuff. But we'll see later on. World War II and stuff, and the New Deal and all this bring into these social programs from the public to the workplace. Okay, and promote the last thing. Number 6 is promote a frank study of causes of accidents rather than the concealment of fault, reducing parental action and human suffering. Employers must fund workers' comp programs according to state guidelines. Participation in workers' comp programs is compulsory in all states with the exception of Texas. So if you're an employer and you're tight for money, you won't want to pay workers' comp. Go to Texas, where employers are not required to provide workers' comp insurance, with limited exceptions, such as businesses that hold construction contracts with the government. Self-insurance, another funding option allowed in majority of states, which requires companies requires companies to deposit a surety bond, enable them to pay their own workers' claims directly. Many companies select self-insurance because it gives employers more discretion in administering their own risk. Nevertheless, self-insured companies must pay their workers the same benefits as those paid by the funds or private insurance carriers. Okay? Remember, efforts to promote workforce accident prevention and safety briefings and wellness may prevent worker comp claims. Okay? How worker comp compares to Social Security benefits. Workers' comp differs from Social Security, disability insurance, and Medicare in important work. Workers' comp pays for medical care for work-related injuries beginning immediately after the injury occurs. It pays temporary disability benefits after a waiting period of 3 to 7 days. It pays permanent partial and permanent total disability benefits to workers who have lasting consequences of disabilities caused on the job. In most states, it pays rehabilitation and training benefits for those unable to return to pre-injury careers. So that means a person can get a whole new career if they can't come back to their job. And it pays benefits to survivors of workers who died of work-related causes. Now, Social Security disability, in contrast, pays benefits to workers with long-term disabilities from any cause, but only when the disability is preclude work. In other words, they didn't done work. Okay? Now, there is a point where I believe the workers' comp goes out, and then a person has to do SSDI, disability insurance, which is for people who worked or paid into it. Now, or if they never worked, then there's another subject, supplemental Social Security insurance, SSI. Okay? Now, that's another subject. Social Security also pays for rehabilitation service and for survivor benefits to families of deceased workers. So both Social Security and workers' comp will pay for rehabilitation and for survivor benefits for families of deceased workers. Social Security begins after a 5-month waiting period, and Medicare begins 29 months after onset of medically verified inability to work. So, a lot of people, if you're going to get injured or sick or something from work, or something